Hi, thanks for watching my talk. I'm Jessica Pratt, an assistant professor of teaching in the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology and the Center for Environmental Biology at UC-Irvine. As part of my core teaching duties, I have the privilege of teaching a 3-course capstone sequence for students who are minoring in global sustainability at UCI. My talk today is based on the premise that interaction with public audiences allows students to increase the impact of their coursework, network with important community groups, form mentoring relationships, and contribute to a shared vision for sustainability in the community. In doing so, it teaches essential skills for environmental careers and conservation action while promoting awareness of sustainability in their own lives and others. Environmental and conservation professionals work in a broad variety of settings dealing with a diversity of issues, a few of which are shown here. Understanding the scientific basis of these grand challenges is not enough. Communication and collaboration across traditional disciplinary boundaries and between communities of learning and practice are essential to addressing the myriad sustainability challenges facing our society. One step in achieving this is to foster mutually beneficial relationships between our educational institutions, practitioners, and the communities surrounding our campuses to promote positive social and environmental change. One such relationship is that between our students and the surrounding community. For example, student public interaction or community-engaged scholarship can combine actions and learning in a meaningful way that provides coalition building, communication skills, and outreach experience. We know that public engagement and stakeholder buy-in is critically important to conservation success, but it is difficult or maybe even impossible for students to develop skills in these areas without leaving their classroom. The literature shows that essential skills for environmental careers and conservation action fall along these same lines. In terms of promoting positive action for the environment, both at home and in public arenas, a personal sense of competence and confidence in one's ability to achieve goals by working with a group are essential. Moreover, in a study that asked college graduates to report competencies and skills most essential for career improvement, despite the technological advances we've made as a society, it is skills involving real interaction with people that are identified as most important. In addition, the National Council for Science and the Environment, through their Center for Environmental Education Research, has published a series of reports since 2010 looking at environmental education programs nationally, the interdisciplinary curriculum offered, and core competencies in both knowledge and skills areas. They've come up with this list of core competencies, and in the skills section, they highlight these same things. Oftentimes, it is in these critical communication and engagement skills areas that our classroom training falls short. And this isn't our intention as instructors or because we don't think these things are important. I think it is really because it requires that students interact with people outside of the classroom, and as instructors, we don't always have the networks within our communities to do this easily. As we think about educating the next generation of conservation or sustainability professionals, we have to think about the stakeholder network in which they'll be working. In our current educational programs at UCI, we think a lot about knowledge networks. A knowledge network for conservation biology might include the research community, land managers and conservation actors, or the practitioner community, policy and decision makers, and then conservation stakeholders. In this example, black arrows indicate historically common flows of information as to how science may inform policy and decisions for action. The blue arrows indicate novel and growing pathways for information flow, the increasing use of citizen science data by universities and conservancies, for example. And the green arrows in the middle indicate additional connections that need to be forged to develop the robust and efficient communication to transform knowledge into action. And so we need to be sure that we focus student training on this middle area. Regardless of whether our students go on to be researchers, practitioners, decision makers, or public advocates for the environment, it is critical that they can foster more direct connections between groups, which ultimately strengthens the knowledge network and improves our ability to move science to action. I would also argue that we are all stakeholders in the student experience. They are the future leaders and problem solvers, so we should all be truly invested in the quality of their training in these areas. This type of network thinking has become common among environmental and sustainability educators as well. In the past year, I've participated in 2 nascent networks. The one that I've prepared this talk for, the UC-CSU KAN, and another one nationally called the Next Generation Careers in Environmental Biology. The goals of these networks are really about how we train the head, the hearts, and the hands of students so they can be effective actors and problem solvers in an increasingly complex world. This isn't a new idea, really. As educators, we often have teaching goals or learning objectives related to these critical skills we've examined. Here are just a few examples of the types of learning objectives you may have at a course level or at a programmatic level, and I'm sure we could come up with many more. Assignments related to these types of learning objectives typically only require students to interact directly with other students in the classroom. Where students conduct and present projects on relevant sustainability topics, this often means they are preaching to the choir. Integrating engagement with the public, broadly defined, into courses through community-engaged scholarship and public presentation of course projects can dramatically enrich the learning experience, skill development, and self-efficacy for students. There are several types of assignments one could incorporate into their syllabus that would allow for student public engagement. And while I do all of these currently in my courses, the one I'll focus on today is public presentation of coursework. I teach a capstone sequence of courses to students minoring in global sustainability. Each quarter, they are required to do some form of research project. A question I ask myself in designing the structure and outcomes of these projects is where and with whom can students share their work other than in the classroom with other students? I've decided to organize a public poster session each year during our final class period where students have the opportunity to present their research projects in poster form to a variety of different audiences. In 2017, for the first time, I collaborated with a local high school to host our final poster session at the high school library. High school teachers gave their students credit for attending after school, and some of the AP Environmental Sciences teachers brought their whole class to the poster session during the school day. I'm interested in learning whether experiences like this meet the learning objectives I have for this project, and what students perceive as the outcomes of engaging with an audience outside of the classroom. I'm currently developing a study to examine this in more detail, but today I'll present some results from a survey I piloted this year that was sent out to all of the university and high school students who participated in this poster session. I asked students to rate the extent to which they agreed with a variety of statements about the experience. In the survey of just high school students, I found that 83% had a better understanding of what sustainability means after attending the poster session. 92% felt that poster topics were related to their own life. 84% had follow-up conversations with their friends about topics in the poster session. 25% had follow-up conversations with their families about the poster session. So, not surprising, the teenagers aren't talking to mom and dad. And 50% were more interested in studying sustainability in college. For statements that were alike between the two survey groups, where high school students and university students were asked about the same thing, I'm really interested in whether there's a difference in the responses between high schoolers and university students. In general, it seemed like their responses to how much they agreed to the statements I gave them were very similar. So when I asked students the extent to which they think about sustainability when making choices about their lives, a majority of high school and 100% of UCI students agreed or strongly agreed. A majority of both high school and UCI students agreed or strongly agreed that individual citizens should be doing more to address environmental issues. And when asked whether they would like more opportunities to interact with either college students or high school students in settings like this, 79% of both high school and UCI students agreed or strongly agreed. And the reason these numbers are the same for these two groups is because I actually had the same number of respondents to the survey from each of the groups. This slide and what follows show responses of just the UCI students. For UCI students, 93% thought the poster session was a valuable experience. 79% had follow-up conversations with their friends. 21% had follow-up conversations with their family about their poster topics. So college kids still not talking to mom and dad about what they're doing in their courses. And I also asked students what was the most memorable thing about the poster session in an open-ended question where they could respond. And this was one student's response. What I found most memorable was seeing the happiness my peers derived when presenting on the topics they researched and were clearly passionate about. Seeing quality interactions and sharing of valuable information pertaining to the crucial topic of sustainability was also memorable. I mean, come on, does it get any better than that? Students noticed how happy their peers were during the poster session. I couldn't have written a better quote myself. And now I want to show you the results related to the types of skills that students felt they acquired or practiced as a result of this experience. 64% of students agreed or strongly agreed that they were more comfortable with public speaking and giving presentations as a result of this poster session experience. 85% of students said they were more comfortable with researching and summarizing scholarly content as a result of this experience. Finally, in an effort to not lead them to claim the skills I'd hoped they would acquire, I asked an open-ended question where they could simply list any valuable transferable skills they felt they'd acquired or practiced as a result of the poster session experience. Here's what they had to say. Listening to other people's ideas, open-mindedness, thinking on the fly, being flexible, research, public speaking and communication, team building and teamwork, dependability, responsibility, leadership, time management, schedule coordination, and organization. The list reported by these students aligns almost perfectly with the list of skills we looked at earlier in the presentation that we know are essential for transforming knowledge into action through self-efficacy and a sense of competence and are critical for career improvement. And finally, I'd like to share a couple of quotes with you. One student said, "I developed and or strengthened the ability to transcribe difficult research findings into a language appropriate for high school students," which is one form of a public audience. In addition, I develop better research skills, time management, teamwork, accountability, professionalism, critical thinking, analytical skills, and heightened public speaking abilities. To follow then, this experience confirmed that I want to teach about sustainability as an adult, whether it is a volunteer for my child's class or as a full-time job. Wow, this is why we do this work, isn't it? In closing, I would argue that we need to think more about how to get students out of the classroom as part of their formal curriculum. Interaction with public audiences through community-engaged scholarship, of which I've discussed just one example, allows students to increase the impact of their coursework and their own professional development. It does so by increasing training and practice of important transferable skills that better prepares them for careers. It provides networking and career opportunities. It gives them the confidence to take advantage of these opportunities because they have greater self-efficacy and a stronger science identity. It reinforces the formal curriculum by providing real-world meaning. And I believe it improves representation from diverse groups when done well and with this intention. And I would hope that all of this translates into greater retention in the field, resulting in sustainability knowledge truly transforming to action. And indeed, wouldn't it be great if this is what's happening? With that, I would like to thank you for watching my presentation, and I look forward to your comments and ideas and further interaction with you all.